The United States and Cuba share a light from the past. It once illuminated a common understanding of the price of independence. But in time, the interference of change refracted and dimmed our source of direction, casting darkness, mistrust, and tension over our hopes. Yet in the absence of light, we find what truly guides us. For in our journey together, baseball was always with us, in the shadows, a remnant from the first moments when our two countries exchanged ideas in peace. Now we look up and see the night sky, dotted with the stars of baseball who were born from our history. Perez, Tiant, Diego, Minoso, Oliva, Cespedes, Abreu. Maybe in baseball we find meaning in the words of Cuban revolutionary José Martí. Men are like stars. Some generate their own light, while others reflect the brilliance they receive. We are all stars. We just need to embrace what makes others shine. Baseball, light the way.
Roughly 50,000 fans expected on hand today as the Tampa Bay Rays come across the ocean to visit Cuba and to take on the Cuban national team at Estadio Latinoamericano here in Havana, Cuba. There are many reasons to be excited about the Rays, and Archer is certainly at the forefront of them as the Cuban national team takes the field, which allows us to set the table for the leadoff hitter for the Rays today, and that is Dairon Verona, and he will be attempting to put the ball in play against the defense, which has become famous, certainly in Major League Baseball, and I think perhaps you two can back me up on it, that with all due respect to the offensive players from Cuba, at least in the beginning with some of the great shortstops, they were known for their defense.
Right, Ordonez and all of those that were able to leave. You see defense, that's exactly what Cuba's about. Most of their potent offensive players have defected, but the defense, that's traditionally very good.
Yasmani Torres will pitch. Each team has a significant amount of pitchers that they can use. Torres is by no means the youngest, nor perhaps the best Cuban pitcher, but he is arguably as savvy and experienced as any, and perhaps that will allow him to have some success against the Tampa Bay Rays today. His fastball sits in the 80s. He throws a forkball or a screwball to kind of fool hitters.
He's a control guy, and he's going to use deception, movement, location, generally keeps the ball around the strike zone. And he's been around the block here. He saw 12 seasons, 35-year-old, and has a lot of experience over time. So use deception to win the ball game.
The first man hitting is going to be Dairon Verona, the Cuban native, followed by Brad Miller, who they picked up to bolster their offense a little bit. Longoria, Dickerson, another offensive add. Kevin Kiermaier was the best defensive player in all of baseball last year, and arguably one of the best seasons historically. Rene Rivera will catch. James Loney will be playing first base. Verona's introduction before the game was met with, I would characterize it as muted for somebody who called Cuba home and played for their team for 7 years. But the Rays will make sure, as his name is announced, that they give him the credit that they believe he deserves.
Primer jugador al bate para el equipo Tampa, número 67, Dairon Verona, jardinero derecho.
Verona has his name announced, and the Rays players all come out of the dugout to give him a standing ovation. When his name was announced here in the stadium, nobody applauded.
A lot more subdued than what I thought we were going to hear from the fans, and a lot of it, he was never really in the media.
And you saw the significance of the moment as he swings at the first pitch and pops it up. With the wind blowing, it's an out. So one pitch, one out, as Verona becomes the first ever to defect and return to play in Cuba. 3 years ago. He left on a boat with his mom, convinced his mom to go, and he got a chance to come back and be reunited with his niece and other family members this week.
And for all of you at home, that is not high fives for hitting a pop-up. That's for being able to make the trek back. A very courageous trek. I imagine those emotions were unbelievable. The heart rate.
And now Brad Miller will step in for the Rays, and the first pitch he sees is a strike. Well, I don't think you can imagine the emotions he was feeling. You can't. It'd be interesting to hear what he says about that moment. He was able to swing the bat. He was able to actually make contact.
I think both feet were off the ground when he was swinging. That's how light he was feeling on his feet.
You can't say enough the sacrifice of these players. I mean, when they leave their family extended periods of years, not even seeing each other, really difficult for the pursuit of a passion. You pay a heavy price.
Carl, this is one of the adjustments that the Rays players are going to have to make. They're used to seeing a lot of velocity at the major league level now. In Cuba, you really don't see that much velocity anymore. That's the part of the game that has been sacrificed by all the defections. You see a lot of craftiness, a lot of 88, 87 miles per hour.
That's ripped to center field, and a sliding catch out there by Raul Santos. There's the defense we were talking about.
Well, this is a great play. You know, when you slide in like that, and your body has to be behind the ball, because if you miss it, that's it. That ball's gone, and there's nobody behind you. But he does a nice job of getting the glove under the ball, between the ball and the grass. And the president and the first lady are thrilled.
Raul missed it. He had his glasses, he didn't have them on.
Who's the bigger baseball fan, Michelle or the president? Now Evan Longoria, the third baseman, adds a called strike.
And Raul Santos in center field. The reason he is playing for the team here, Granma, is because of the defection of Joannis Cespedes. He took over for Cespedes, and one man's loss is another's gain right there in that team.
The all-time leader in home runs in franchise history, Longoria, over 200 of them, coming off a season in which he hopes to improve on. You see the numbers last year, 160 games, and the question that a lot of Rays fans hope is answered in the positive is yes, he can return to a 30 home run potential. That one's on the corner, and a called strike 3. It feels a little bit more than an exhibition game for the folks here in Cuba today. And it all started with Verona's pop out and then a Web Gem nominee from the center fielder Raul Santos. The executive branch in awe. We'll talk with the president in the second inning of this one.
And welcome back to baseball in Cuba. Our broadcast team is on its way down into the stands to interview the President of the United States. And in the meantime, I have the privilege of interviewing Chris Archer, star pitcher for the Rays. Now, Chris, you got a moment with the President. You shook his hand. You said something, and he said something back. What was that?
He told me he appreciated how thoughtful I was in my interviews and speaking about our opportunity to be here and just in general, and it's probably the highest compliment I've ever had in my life. He wasn't just appreciative of my ability, but of the way that I spoke and carried myself, and I've never had a higher compliment.
You brought a glove over to him. Were you trying to give him a glove?
Yeah, Matt Moore, he knew that he wouldn't have a chance to shake his hand. Matt Moore knew he wouldn't have a chance to shake his hand, but he asked me if I would give his glove, Matt Moore's glove, as a gift to the president, And I did that, and the president made sure to tell me that I told him thank you.
What is it like to play, even though you're not playing, in a major league game where two presidents from these two countries are sitting right over there?
It's unreal. I mean, the whole atmosphere, the whole experience, and then to have those people here. This is an experience that nobody gets to have, and we're very fortunate as a team to be here.
What was it like standing on the field pregame when the national anthems were played as you're holding children?
It was emotional, honestly. I had to fight back some tears. Just thinking about the magnitude of the overall experience, and then the fans, how passionate they are, the chants that they have. It was a special moment for sure.
And the special moment for Dayron Verona, your leadoff hitter. Tell us about that.
Dayron defected from Cuba 3 years ago. Never thought he would have the opportunity to even come back and see his family, see his sister, his niece, his mother, and that all happened through the game of baseball, through this experience. We're changing lives, and hopefully we can continue to do that through this whole experience.
Before today, what was your takeaway from yesterday? All the great things that you got to do.
It was awesome. We went down to the hot corner, and people were telling me stats about myself that I didn't even know. The passion for life, the pure happiness and joy, the fact that they don't have technology so they have to interact with each other, is admirable. I don't know how I would handle the situations that they have, but they make the most of it, and I'm definitely going to take that home with me.
What is it about you that makes you so welcome to go walk into a restaurant and talk to the waiters and talk to the cook who made the rice and beans? What is it about you that makes you that way?
I don't know, honestly. It's just something inside me tells me to maximize the opportunities that I have in life. And connecting with people is something I've always loved to do. It gives me a greater perspective for why we're on this earth. And this trip has significantly altered my life.
What would you tell players on other teams about your trip to Cuba if they ask, how did it go?
I would say that these are the most passionate fans in the world. And that's mainly because they don't get the major league product as frequently as we do. I would encourage people to come check out everything that goes on. Like, literally come here. Since things are opening up, come here on a cultural development trip for you and your family, and it's going to make you a better person.
Are you trying to sit next to the president during this game? Is that part of your schedule?
I wish. I'm going to be sitting in here supporting my teammates, but if the opportunity presented itself, I definitely will.
What has been the conversation like among the players on your team as you discuss what you've all seen the last 48 hours here?
You know, at first, some people were kind of skeptical, to be honest. But once we sat down as a group and thought about the magnitude of the experience, it was a no-brainer. And once we landed here, the excitement and the team bonding experience has just been unbelievable. We already had a great energy about our club, and it's elevated to even higher heights now. And I'm looking forward to carrying this energy into the season because we definitely appreciate the opportunities that we're afforded to play this game on the highest level from being here and understanding how passionate people around the world are.
It's just a snapshot, but what have you seen from Team Cuba so far? They look like a major league team to me.
Oh yeah, they're aggressive. They're hustling, and the passion from this country is bleeding into the way they play.
When you spoke to the president, were you at all surprised that he knew who you were? I mean, every baseball fan does, but he knew exactly who you were when you approached.
Yeah, and I shook the First Lady's hand as well, and he was educating her on who I was. So hopefully there's some potential there, even if they're not in office, to get together and do some things because they're great in the community. They're really about impacting the youth of this world, and that's one of my missions in life as well. So neither of them responded to my tweets, which I was pretty upset about, but and I told them, but they're obviously pretty busy, and I'm glad they made time for our whole team today.
So you said, why didn't you respond to my tweet?
Yeah.
And what did the president say to that?
The First Lady said that they can't get back to everybody. A lot of times it's other people actually checking it and informing her because they don't have time to scroll through Twitter. They have, first of all, a family plus running the country. But it was all playful. Hopefully I can get a response. If not, I'm totally content with the interaction I had.
Well, on to more serious things, though. Yesterday, I mean, it was an enormous day in the world with the president being here and doing real business here. As a citizen, what do you think about what happened yesterday?
What do you mean with
just the president meeting with the Cuban president and all that?
I'm hoping that we're laying the foundation for something special going forward. Obviously, we have differences as countries, differences in opinions on human rights, and hopefully we can find some common ground, and hopefully the Rays are showing the people of Cuba, the government of Cuba, what can be, for lack of a better term, afforded to them if they do open their doors and start to be a little bit more open-minded about their policies.
Nothing against Port Charlotte, but how difficult.
That boy Matty.
All right, that's 3 outs in the inning. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And tell us one more time what a thrill it was to meet the president.
It was unreal. People maybe would call it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but people don't get that opportunity. I'm honored. I'm speechless, honestly.
Thanks so much, Chris. Back to a commercial and then an interview with the president.
Welcome back, everyone. The historic game between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cuban national team. A couple of hits for Cuba in the bottom of the first, but no runs come across. So we begin the top of the second inning after a 1-2-3 first, with Corey Dickerson as the designated hitter. Wild swing and a miss, and as we've seen over the course of last year, we like to move around the stadium, whether it be different seats, sometimes on a hill at a Little League game. Now we're in the front row, and the reason that we've relocated and there's a vacant seat next to us is that next half inning we'll be joined by the president, Barack Obama. So we've brought it down to literally his level here.
We straight went from euchre seats to front row right here.
I think we rappelled down from the booth. It took that.
The good news is we're here, we made it, we're safe. And we're watching baseball as Dickerson lifts one to left field. This one is deep and it's tailing into foul territory at home run distance. But for the Rays fans who are watching, the idea that Dickerson is now on the team, and we saw Miller earlier, they need to score a little more run this year and they can be really competitive.
Well, power does that in the middle of the lineup. That's exactly what you want. And the Rays went out this offseason and were able to go and get it. One thing about this stadium is that wind right now is really blowing. You see both the Cuban and the American flag in center field just howling. And that ball from our angle, I really thought it was going to be even in fair territory, and it just sailed away.
Oh, it's tough. The other thing Dickerson brings is the defensive side of the ball. The Rays are all about the metrics, the analytics to put position players in the right spot. Literally with Kiermaier out there, they have so much coverage. They have more than they need.
And right now, Torres on the mound is fooling them with some off-speed stuff there. The second consecutive strikeout for Yosvani Torres.
And this is something that the Major League Baseball players aren't used to. You see a lot of off-speed with taking off, beautifully thrown with 2 strikes. That's where you want it. Into dirt, they pitch backwards a lot. And Major League Baseball players, hard to see.
And once again, we've moved our location from where we were way up top to now literally right behind home plate here, just off the first base side. And we are in the box that has the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, behind us. And the president, Barack Obama, a few sections over, will join us once we get to the third out, and will spend some time with us talking about his diplomatic efforts to engage the country of Cuba, as well as the role that baseball is playing in all of it, as we continue to chronicle it here on ESPN.
Carl, I really like these seats. I have the commissioner behind me. Usually he's sitting in the front row. Now he's sitting behind me. Derek Jeter to our left.
Right.
This is good stuff.
It was good until the commissioner kept tapping us on the shoulder to move. Like, you're a big body. He can't see the game anymore.
Down in front.
I really want to give the commissioner my cell phone so he can take some pictures. Is that all right? I'm going to hand it to him, see what happens.
But this angle does allow us to see what Torres is pitching, and the Rays are having a hard time putting the ball in play with Longoria and Dickerson striking out. Forsythe just swung through one to even the count 2-2.
This is what he does. Torres has the ability to change speeds, take a little bit off, and he gets you off balance. And sometimes that 2-mile-an-hour difference between pitches is the difference between squaring it up and then hitting it off the end of the bat with poor contact.
By no means is Torres a prospect. Already in his 30s, pitches backwards. What I mean by that, starts with off speed and tries to end with the fastball like he did and struck out Evan Longoria in the first.
Good chance, Ed, here with one out to kind of talk about your dad, of course, one of the great players from Cuba who went on to a Hall of Fame career. But when you begin to play and engage with the sport of baseball on the island of Cuba, what was your dad's sort of recollections as to when baseball became part of his life?
From the very beginning, his childhood in his neighborhood, that's what it was. You play baseball in the streets, you play baseball in the park, you grow up with it, you talk it, and anytime, any free time, it wasn't about doing something indoors. It was about being outdoors, playing the game.
Yurisbel Garcia, the third baseman, made the play here. And when you say play the game, though, they played a little different game, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They played with bottle caps, chapitas, and with broomsticks. And that really helped with his hand-eye coordination. As a matter of fact, when I was struggling, which that happened a lot earlier in my career, he went out and he said, all right, I have a broomstick. We went out to the beach in Puerto Rico, and he started throwing these little pine cones. I was swinging and missing. And next thing you know, I'm like, Dad, you can't hit this. He said, give me that. Give me the ball. Give me that thing. So he got the stick. I threw it to him. First one, whack. Almost hit me in the forehead. That's how good his hand coordination was. And that's why he's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm right here sitting next to you and the commissioner.
Were you in the middle of a pine forest? Like, were there a lot of pine cones?
No. They're abundant around the beach area, especially in islands, tropical islands.
There's a rip into left field. That'll be the first hit for the Rays. And rounding first and sprinting into second and safe at second base. Heavy speed out of the box, and man in scoring position.
And Carl, anytime you're grabbing that extra 90 feet, getting the extra base, it happens right out of the batter's box. He didn't hesitate. He understood the play was in front of him, and he made his decision early on. And keep in mind, Kiermaier can flat out fly. This kid is fast.
And that's one scouting report they do have. They did see them take infield today. They also talked about it. They said try to take the extra base with their outfielders. All of them, except the one in right field, has a very, very strong arm.
So a chance here for the Rays to score with Desmond Jennings, the left fielder, now batting. Jennings showed some pop last year, and they definitely have improved a little bit with their offense as the breaking ball stays up high for a ball.
Yeah, the Rays really need Jennings to kind of bounce back. He's a guy, very balanced player, complete package, can base run well. You know, he plays solid defense. He gives them a little power. So he's an all-around player that they really missed a lot with all his injuries recently.
And what Eddie just talked about, if in fact a ball gets hit to the outfield, there's a good chance you'll see Kiermaier, with the speed we know from his defense, perhaps try to score the first run.
Without a doubt. And that's what he, especially in this situation with 2 outs, he will go on contact, taking as big a lead as he can.
Off-speed pitch in for a strike. It takes, what, an inning, 2 innings, or given the situation here, what, 3 innings to kind of settle into a game?
Well, the other side of that coin is, while Torres is settling in, we know with repeated at-bats against the same pitchers, the adjustments are made. So the trick is he gets through that lineup the first time, then what happens after these Rays hitters make adjustment. But believe me, the Rays players are all talking to each other, saying, okay, what does he have? What is he working in and out? And that's what makes these major league players so exceptional. They adjust very quickly.
You saw President Obama there. I'm not sure, but his reaction to that pitch was sort of a nod of like, yeah, that was pretty close. That was a good pitch. You could see where that might have been called a strike, but it wasn't.
And you see the difference right away here in Cuba. You have the pitcher, the catcher, both reacting to the call, where in the United States in Major League Baseball, you don't see that. You don't see the pitcher showing up the umpire. The umpire behind the plate also umpires here in La Serie Nacional. So it's the zone is different, yet from what I heard from Angel Hernandez, it's going to be very, very fair.
Let's think about it. Dickerson hit a ball that was home run deep but foul, and then we saw Kiermaier rip a shot to left. You wonder if perhaps Torres is becoming a little leery of contact, now behind in the count 3-1.
Well, his game is contact. He's not a strikeout pitcher, but it's a type of contact that matters. And he tends to miss the barrel of the bat with a lot of late movement and change of speeds.
First base on ball 4, and a little frustration, I think, shown from Torres, as well as the catcher Morejon.
And you're going to notice the frustration also on the Cuban pitchers. One of the biggest reasons Angel Hernandez, the same way as taught these umpires, listen, this is going to be a major league strike zone. The plate, 17 inches, yet don't forget, with the circumference of the baseball, you still have another 2¼ inches on each side. You're going to get at least 22 inches from side to side, no mas. International play, that's a strike. Major League Baseball, that is not.
The first baseman's James Loney, with good speed on the bases for the Rays in both Kiermaier and Jennings. When the Orioles came here in '99, games, in fact, they played 2. They played back in Baltimore. Very competitive games. No blowouts.
Ended 3-2, right? Extra innings.
Loney on the ground. That's through into right field. Kiermaier comes in. A throw home. Not in time. Safe, and the Rays grab a 1-0 lead. That's the speed of Kevin Kiermaier, and a pretty good throw from the right fielder as well.
Well, the throw is where you want it as an outfielder. After the ball gets through, you're coming up charging hard from right field. Now it's all about keeping the ball down with some velocity. So if the throw's a little bit offline, that man can cut it off, but a little too much dirt slowed it down just enough, and Kiermaier with his speed, back door.
We're showing some emotion.
I'm noticing the First Lady is quite a baseball fan here.
How about that moment there? Obama looks to Castro. Congratulations.
Is that
It's
trash talk?
1-0. I think Michelle's at least more of an outward fan than the president is.
Yeah. Fired up. Well, those are one of the questions situationally, right? Kiermaier sliding here, back door.
Love the emotion. And you see not only the emotion from President Obama saying, we got you, 1-0. Raul?
Well, this is baseball, though. A lot of baseball left here.
It is, and I love the also when Kiermaier slid into home plate, he's also calling safe. Players from the Tampa Bay Rays, they are also feeling excited about this game. It's not a spring training game for them right now. This is a lot of pride going on.
I think you feed off of the emotion of the other team, too, and we got the impression early with the catch in center field. The Cuban team was playing this fairly seriously.
Yeah, I mean, look.
So if they're going to do that, then we're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, when you play, you recognize there's a lot of opportunity here. Who knows what could happen? And you perform well. There's players still trying to make the team. Every at bat counts, every pitch counts. So you're going to see people at their best.
Bottom of the order who's gotten the job done here for the Rays. Rene Rivera, the catcher, bats 9th. Looks at a fastball outside.
And this is one of the situations we're looking at. Now you have James Loney, left-handed hitter at the plate. Rivera, who really struggled offensively last year, on deck. So situationally, you start to think about who do you most want to pitch to. And if you're going to make the mistake, you want to make it more to Rivera at this point.
Slow ground ball. Tricky hop. Force at second. Out at second base. But the Rays get the first run. So it's the President of the United States 1 and Raul Castro right now 0. He will move from that seat to the seat right between myself and Eduardo Perez as the President of the United States, Barack Obama, joins us to talk about Cuba and baseball and his experiences here. Jackie didn't get caught too often. That one misses outside.
Yes. Well,
earlier this week, Doug did have a chance to talk with Rachel Robinson about Jackie's significance in Cuba.
So, Mrs. Robinson, in 1947, just before your husband broke the color line in baseball, he played and trained right here in Havana, Cuba. What are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling very excited about the possibility for change in the society and having a role in it, even if I'm just in the back seat. And when we came in 47, it was critical for Jack's career for him to do well and to be accepted and to be able to perform up to expectations, his expectations and the team's. And so we were really concentrating more on how he did and how he managed than we were on where we were located.
Well, what do you recall about how the Cuban people treated you sort of as a family?
I recall that at every instance we were well treated. And in 47, in the United States, we had plenty of challenges. We were very sensitive to how we were being received, and we were received beautifully.
If you could reflect, what do you think your husband, Jackie Robinson, would say about this moment now 7 years later from his debut in spring training in 1947?
Well, first of all, I think he would be just thrilled that we have an African-American president in the United States visiting Cuba. I don't know that he would ever have anticipated that that could happen. None of us did.
What do you most hope from this game moving forward through the social change in this particular relationship between the United States and Cuba?
I think it's important for us to understand that it's mutually important. It's not just one country will be more satisfied than the other, or that there's some advantage that one country had, and in some ways supporting each other, that we will make the big changes and we will make the important changes that will affect all people, not just a certain level.
Rachel Robinson now, in fact, seeing the President of the United States, Barack Obama, who is going to join us shortly for a conversation about his experiences here, as well as what he hopes to accomplish down the road between the country of the United States and Cuba, and the role that baseball has played in all of that. Of course, the big baseball fan, we've seen the outward expressions from Michelle Obama, and now Barack Obama will join us after getting a few words in with Derek Jeter.
You got an opportunity to clarify right here on national TV. Yes, you do.
You don't want me telling this story.
I got a much better.
Pleasure. Come on in. Sit over here.
How are you?
How are you, Mr.
Great
President?
To see you.
Good to see you.
Great to see you guys.
Pleasure.
Appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thank you.
Oh, and I got a raised jersey. That's what
What
I'm
are
talking
the White
about.
Sox going to say about that?
You know what? As long as he doesn't make me wear it back in Chicago, I'll be okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I think before we even get into the baseball and the experience, this has been a very difficult day for the country, for Belgium, and I figured that this would be an opportunity for you to address the many millions who are watching.
Well, I appreciate that. I had a chance to talk to the Belgian Prime Minister early this morning, right after the explosion had happened. And this is just one more example of why the entire world has to unite against these terrorists. The notion that any political agenda would justify the killing of innocent people like this is something that's beyond the pale. We are going to continue with the over 60 nations that are pounding ISIL and going to go after them. In the meantime, obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with those who've been lost and hoping for a speedy recovery for those who've been injured.
Understand. What would you say your experience has been like here for 72 hours, given the goals that you had?
Well, for 50 years, we had no contact with this country, and it was not serving our ultimate goal, which is freedom and opportunity for the Cuban people. And we initiated a new policy of engagement, not out of naivete. We understand that the government here continues to control all aspects of life, that individual freedoms continue to be curtailed, but our belief is that if you've got more Americans traveling, if you've got more commerce, if you've got more interaction, if our ideas and our culture is penetrating this society, that over time that gives us more leverage to advocate for the values that we care about. And obviously the Cuban American community is such a central part of the American experience. We consulted a lot with Cuban Americans before we initiated this change. There's a debate within the community as to whether this is appropriate or not, because there's still a lot of anger and frustration about the history of what the Cuban exiles experienced. But my view has been that if you do something for 50 years and it doesn't work, you got to try something else. And we're going to continue, as we saw yesterday at the press conference and in my speech today, to amplify our concerns about human rights, about people who are being arbitrarily detained or harassed just for speaking their minds or expressing their political views. But this now gives us more leverage and a greater platform to advocate for the things we
Would you say then there's momentum for what you're doing based on what you've experienced here?
The good news is what we're seeing is that there's overall support in the United States for this change in policy, but perhaps more importantly, the majority of Cubans, a strong majority of Cubans support it. Now, I met with some dissidents before I came here. Those who supported this change in policy, a few who thought that it somehow rewarded or validated the existing government. But what I explained to them is that we will continue to speak out loudly on the things that we care about. That's not going to change. But isolation had, in some ways, empowered those who didn't want to see change, because essentially they were in a position to blame all the problems that they had here on the United States, and we could not do what I did today, which is speak to the entire Cuban population and talk about the values that America cares about and the extraordinary success that Cuban Americans have had when they have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the ability to start their own businesses and so forth.
Mr. President, I'm a first-generation Cuban American raised in Puerto Rico.
Absolutely.
I spent the last 72 hours with my family that has never left Cuba.
Right.
They're here.
Right.
They have their children. They're contemporary with my age, 46.
Right.
What do you tell them and their children about having hope for the future?
You know, I think our goal is that if, as a consequence of the changes in policy, you start seeing small businesses emerge and you're starting to see people being able to drive their own car or open up their own barbershop and get their own income. If we start seeing more American tourists coming, if we continue to see the remittances, meaning the cash that Cuban Americans earn, being able to send it back to their families, then over time, your families here, other families, they can start building their own small nest eggs. Maybe they can start a business. We're going to continue to put pressure so that people now can be hired not through the government but on their own. And by creating those pockets of freedom and opportunity, over time, changing attitudes start beginning to happen. And people start thinking, you know what, I don't have to risk traveling to Miami in order to succeed. Potentially, I can succeed here. And the more we can create these pockets of opportunity and hope here, when you see the incredible talent and skill and innovation of the Cuban people, I have no doubt that eventually change is going to come.
Well, Mr. President, full disclosure, I played for the Chicago Cubs.
You know what? I like the Chicago connection, and you know, when we're in Cuba, Cubs, White Sox, it doesn't matter.
Well, speaking of social change, Mr. President, Jackie Robinson's legacy. You made a personal commitment bringing in Rachel Robinson, Sharon Robinson, the family here just for this moment, this special connection. So what do you see that connection ties to not only your life and presidency, but also what you see in the future in this potential relationship between the United States and Cuba?
Well, if you think about Jackie Robinson playing in this ballpark a couple of months before he breaks the color barrier in Major League Baseball, and then to have his wife, who's one of the loveliest people I know, and I still don't believe she's actually 90 years old, because she is gorgeous. And I've gotten a chance to know her and the Robinson family. I've said this before, that's the power of baseball. That's the power of sports. It can change attitudes sometimes in ways that a politician can never change. That a speech can't change. You know, all those kids who started growing up watching the Brooklyn Dodgers, and suddenly they're rooting for a black man on the field, and how that affects their attitudes, laying the groundwork for the civil rights movement. That's a legacy that all of us have benefited from, black and white and Latino and Asian, because what it did was it taught America that it's the skills, it's the talent, it's the character, and not the color that matters. Now, we still have a long way to go. You know, that's true in our everyday life. It's true in our sports, right? I mean, if you look at the number of African American managers, if you look at the number of Latino managers in baseball or owners, obviously there's still a carryover from the past. But the thing that I emphasized in the speech today to the Cuban people, and the thing that we can be so proud of as Americans, is not that we're perfect, but that we have the capacity to change. And Jackie Robinson represents the very best of that change.
Given what happened today, was there ever any consideration to not coming to the game today? And it's clear that you're enjoying the game. Your wife in particular seems to be really enjoying the game as a baseball fan.
Well, she was upset about a couple of these. The
great catch in center field didn't sit well. She liked the catch.
You know, couple of the calls, right?
Couple of the calls. Yeah, I noticed the strike zone's a little wide. But, you know, you always have a little home field advantage.
That's the Chicago in you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a challenge when you have a terrorist attack anywhere in the world, particularly in this age of 24/7 news coverage. You want to be respectful and understand the gravity of the situation. But the whole premise of terrorism is to try to disrupt people's ordinary lives. And one of my most powerful memories and one of my proudest moments as president was watching Boston respond after the marathon. And when Ortiz went out and said, probably the only time that America didn't have a problem with somebody, person on live TV, was when he talked about Boston and how strong it was and that it was not going to be intimidated. And that is the kind of resilience and the kind of strength that we have to continually show in the face of these terrorists. They cannot defeat America. They can't. They don't produce anything. They don't have a message that appeals to the vast majority of Muslims or the vast majority of people around the world. What they can do is scare and make people afraid and disrupt our daily lives and divide us. And as long as we don't allow that to happen, we're going to be okay.
I've seen you throw out the first pitch. You didn't play much baseball, did you?
You know what? Now,
Eduardo, come on.
Can I just make a point? My dad wasn't a Hall of Famer. So, you know, you had a slight benefit in the whole pitching thing. I will say this, and I've talked to President Bush about this. I've talked to other folks. We do a lot of tough stuff as president, and by definition, you don't end up being president if you don't handle stress well. Nothing is more stressful than throwing out a first pitch.
I remember.
Because they just hand you the ball. And I don't care if you've been practicing behind
it doesn't matter.
Ahead of time. When they just hand you the ball. Now, I have not grounded it, I just want to point out, but the first time I didn't ground it was because Pujols saved me. He got down real low because that thing was headed for the dirt.
No, I have another full disclosure.
Yes.
8-year major league career, and on my first pitch, I hit the screen at Wrigley Field. So
it's
don't worry
a tough
about
play.
it.
It's a tough play.
Your guy here after 9/11, Jeter, was warming up President Bush.
I remember.
And said,
"Don't choke.
Don't choke.
Well,
don't bounce it."
Jeter's tough, but the truth of the matter is that I did not play a lot of baseball when I was a kid. I was more of a basketball player, but there is something about baseball that is so fundamentally woven into our culture, and in some ways at a time in our lives where everything's a mile a minute and kids are on their phones all the time and there's just this constant stream of information. There's nothing like going to a ballpark and just everything slowing down a little bit, and the rhythm of the game gives you a sense of appreciation about all the blessings we have, and it's still a family game in a way that is really hard to match.
So all the efforts to speed the game up by the guy behind you were okay with?
I'm actually for that. There's no doubt about that strategy. I was actually explaining to President Castro, because as we were sitting there talking, he said baseball is just too long. And I said to him, well, we got Major League Baseball trying to do something about that. You can't be stepping out of the batter's box as often as they used to.
We should have a wonderful summer of baseball. Both your White Sox and your other Chicago team both look good.
Well, I tell you what, we've had a great rotation. We've had some great pitchers like Sales. We haven't been able to hit, and we picked up a couple of guys. Hopefully, if we can just get a few hits, we'll be okay.
Just a few.
Just a few. I'm not looking for, nonstop action, but just a couple of runs scored. I think our pitchers will be able to protect it.
We really appreciate you being with us very much.
Listen, it was a great honor. I appreciate everything that you guys were willing to do, and I appreciate the coverage, not just about the baseball game itself, but the approach that you and a lot of our sports reporters have taken in talking about the broader context of this, because ultimately what this game is about is goodwill and a recognition that people are people, but we can't forget that there's larger stakes involved in this. And before I came here, as I said, I met with a group of dissidents. A couple of them had been in prison just yesterday. One of them still had cuts as a consequence of handcuffs that had been placed on him. And so, we have to, at the same time, appreciate the ability for us to meet and talk and dialogue, but we can't forget the fact that families have experienced pain, and our values are ones that are contrary to some of the values here, and we got to be able to talk about that in a.
You were moved by the Abreu piece. I remember you refer to that.
Yeah, it was powerful.
And one message that I have to relay to you is from my cousins here in Cuba, saying thank you for coming here.
Well, listen, you tell them that I appreciate it, and my hope is that each time I have the occasion to come back, that we're going to see greater freedom and greater prosperity in Cuba, and that the bonds between our peoples, particularly the Cuban-American community and Cuba, that those grow stronger over time. Ultimately, one of the things you realize as president is there's a lot of stuff wrong in the world, but if you have a chance to see my daughters here, the children here, my daughters were talking to President Castro's grandchildren, you hope that next generation doesn't carry over some of the scars and some of the legacies of the past.
And a pretty special moment there. Dairon Verona was just taken out between innings so that the Rays and the fans, the commissioner, could salute. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Appreciate
Pleasure to have you here.
All right. Safe travels home.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have to do a selfie before you leave. You know that, right? There
Everybody
we go.
got to get in.
Let's go. Come on, Carl.
Hold on a second. Wait. We're going to
Come
do
on.
the whole trio.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
We'll see you in the summer.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Those that know me for selfies.
Hold on.
Thanks for being here. As President Obama continues to make his way out, the Cuban national team has one go down the line just foul off Matt Moore as we continue our coverage of the exhibition game between the Tampa Bay Rays and the team from Cuba. See Rene Rivera, the catcher, looking over here as
That's Jim Crane.
all the attention paid to Jim Crane. That's right, the owner of the Houston Astros. Slow roller, that's going to be a hit. Longoria will have no play on that. You see Derek Jeter, who has spent some time with the president. We'll hear from Derek a little later in our telecast as well. See what he's been up to. Looks like he could certainly still play.
He looks very relaxed.
Yeah.
I saw Jeter at a restaurant the other day. Eduardo and I went out, and he's just at another level of calm right now.
He was like, you guys are still working, and I'm having a nice lunch.
Buenos Aires is the president's next stop. And as he says so long to Rachel Robinson, really neat to hear the thoughts of him, not only on a baseball level, but on a Cuba level and a worldwide level. And the crowd here in Cuba recognizes that he is making his way through the stands towards the exits, shaking hands with the baseball fans, and another round of applause, polite round of applause. It's not often, guys, you get a chance to sit and talk to the president for about 10-15 minutes. So what was your takeaway from it?
Well, you know, there's no question that there's a balance between trying to focus on this common ground and optimism, and also the challenges and the history that can't be forgotten. You know, you want to move forward off of the lessons of the past, and the past have a lot of scars here in Cuba. But at the same time, he's so good with the youth. The next generation has a different vantage point. And yes, they hear the stories from those that came before them, but they also are charting their own course, and he's trying to capitalize on that potential of young minds, young opportunities with these new experiences where people are able to have access to each other and express those differences and chart a new course. So, you know, it's a tough balance, but you see the commitment. And this is something from Guantanamo Bay to all the other commitments that the president has for Cuba. He's very focused on this.
Moore's pitch is in the dirt. It struck me his sort of underlying statement of, if something hasn't worked for 50 years, you try to then change it. I mean, that you could say that about if something hasn't worked for 5 years, you know, or 5 weeks. But his point was that understanding the pushback on so many legitimate levels, his method currently is to not at all ignore and acknowledge the past, but, as I mentioned, focus on the present with an eye towards the future.
And you talk about the past, and even before the Castro regime, you know, here, Jose Marti, which is the just for you in the United States, he's the George Washington here in Cuba. And he quoted him today actually in his speech. And to me, he understands.
Look out. There is no net to protect the fans from that flying bat. And strikeout, nobody hurt as the bat bounces right off the top of the dugout.
And he quoted Marti, and he was saying every person should be equal under the laws, equal access to food, health, and education. People should have the freedom to criticize their government, elect, and get through the democratic process. And that's what he's trying to achieve by trying to communicate that message to the youth and the younger generation of Cuba, to see if they then understand what the realms of his visit here is all about.
And it's all about him also just telling his story. I mean, you talk about Jackie Robinson and what seemed impossible the year before, how he broke that color line. Well, President Obama has that story too in terms of his pathway to presidency. And that is something that resonates with people when they see the darkness and despair and finally see a person who's expanded all possibility. And, you know, that is what's transformational about his presidency. Whether anybody agrees or disagrees with politics and so on, you can't deny that transformational time that he created and generated by just his history and his legacy of people who were disenfranchised and kept out of the process for literally lifetimes.
In its simplest terms, he does appear to have survived on a why not versus, you know, why, and this is another example of it. But in no way do I get the sense that he is ignoring or diminishing the very real issues and the pain that has been felt by the likes of Eduardo's family. And we've seen Dan Lebitard write a column and voice his real discomfort and dissatisfaction with an olive branch being extended to the Castro regime. I don't get the impression from speaking with him that that's discarded in any way.
Well, no, I mean, and I think of it this way. You know, regimes will change, then you have to look at what they will change into and be prepared to lay down the foundation for that.
We'll talk much more about President Obama and baseball. A couple of minutes ago, President Obama and Derek Jeter. You see Derek Jeter, who has spent some time with the president. We'll hear from Derek a little later. And president as anybody, and we'll get a chance to ask Derek what the conversation, without prying too much, as the former captain of the Yankees, the great Derek Jeter, joins us. You guys had some what looked to be really enjoyable exchanges there. What was that about?
Well, it was all about him embellishing a golf game. And,
okay.
Really, I told him I was coming after him for a defamation of character suit because he told me he gave me 30. He told everyone he gave me 30 strokes on the golf course, which is very untrue.
30 strokes?
Very untrue. I took his money, so he wants it back.
I thought perhaps he was asking you about retirement, given that he's nearing the end. You guys you could give him some tips. And what would you give him? What's the advice? You're chill now.
Don't be afraid of it.
Right.
You have a lot to look forward to, so I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Yeah. Are you enjoying it? What's the Derek Jeter sort of life like relative to what it was for so many years?
It's a little bit different. You know, it's not so much of a regimented schedule. I sort of make my own hours, so to speak.
Pretty nice.
But I still have some sort of a schedule. But physically, I'm retired, so it feels a lot better.
Mentally, you never shut it down?
Mentally, I never shut it down, but I see now when people retire, they always, take a year off and feel as though they can come back because their body feels good.
Right.
But I feel pretty good.
No announcement today?
No, God.
Derek, now that you're at the presidential chair here right now.
Yeah, this is big time.
What have you taken from this trip here in Cuba?
You know, it's been an awesome experience for me to come here. You know, I've played with a lot of Cuban players. El Duque Hernandez, Jose Contreras, Jose Cardinal was my coach when I came up.
Right.
And obviously there's a lot of influx of great Cuban talent that has come into Major League Baseball in the last few years. But just to be a part, I'm well aware of the history of the Cuban players and the Negro Leagues, and Jackie Robinson and my daughter are here. And culture here. The country that I'm
world. He kept it under wraps. Now
longer than they could.
Do you follow Do you follow Major League Baseball still? Are you in tune with it? Could you literally break down if you were sitting on the set of Baseball Night, sort of the divisions, or are we not that close?
longer than they could.
Do you follow Major League Baseball still? Are you in tune with it? Could you literally break down if you were sitting on the set of Baseball Night, sort of the divisions, or are we not that close?